Hi everyone, welcome back to Christopher's Models and Dioramas. Well, I made my wooden tools I'm going to need to apply the water. This is the first layer to go on here. Once I get the first layer on, I'm going to put Allie the alligator here where he needs to go, and then I'm going to install my cattails. And after that, it's just, let it set for 48 hours or so until it's dry, and then add my color to it that I want. And then add another layer until it gets to the level where I feel comfortable that it's done. Now my tools, I've sanded down some craft sticks. I wanted a sort of a pointed wedge shape here, almost like a knife edge, to get underneath the edge of the gator with, as well as kind of like a scoop and kind of like a sculpting tool in case I want to add a little extra around the edge of the log here. But first thing I need to do is cut the edge off. Now you're thinking, why not cut that off? Well, for this, I wanted to cut it off here because I'm going to have a little bit more, I want to have a little bit more control over it. So what I do is that I give it a nice healthy snip. And you want to do this around areas that you're going to have to do a little extra work on, like around the edge of the log. Now this stuff kind of lays on thick, and that's one of the advantages to it. I can lay this almost like a ribbon effect here, and then work it along right to the edge where I want. That's where my craft tools come in handy. Take it and just sort of like that. Now, like I said, this stuff looks like water. It's nearly it's clear, nearly almost completely dries clear, just like this as well. Don't be afraid to get a little bit of extra on the ends of your logs, because after all, they are kind of wet, soaking in the water and all that. I'm going to work along your bank like that, and just add your edge to it. I'll repeat this whole thing right along up until this is finished. This is basically how I'll do it. Over the moss, I'll just tamp it down. It's not going to hurt it. This is what that wedge shape one is all about. Take and scoop it. And there you go. Like with any water detail, you're going to have to go back over and re-sculpt it in some places, because it's, model builders and diorama builders are not exactly, we have a tendency to be perfectionist on things. But I think that's all part of the fun. To some degree, you can get a little overboard, but some people do with being perfectionists. I think the term that they use to describe the perfectionists as far as model and diorama builders goes is rivet counters, which they drive people nuts. You got to have everything exact the way it was, right down to the last rivet, every last nut and bolt, so on and so forth. And squeeze and lay it out, and kind of like a ribbon. One of my friends compared it to being a pastry cook, how he takes and uses certain tips for certain designs he wants on his cakes. He's also a model builder too, so that's one of the parallels to that he uses when we talk about what we're doing. turn it as I need it. Get that in there. Just run it up. By doing it this way, you also give a chance to provide that slight look of a wave, which you can do on other projects with this. The only thing that can get a little bit really tricky is when you're trying to get it to conform along a certain edge, because the stuff, like I said, it's not easy to work with because it's time consuming and people get a little impatient, but you know, it's all part of the fun, and it drives some people bananas. Now I have it at almost the depth I want it for over here. Set my tool down. Now I'll have to use maybe another tube on this to get it done, but just a tad bit more over here. Pardon the dog, he's a Chiweenie and he's not exactly one of God's brightest of animals. He's a good little dog, but he's a pain in the butt at times. Now remember, this is just my first layer, so I'm not going for the absolute depth. I'm just setting my boundary on it and tacking down some of the particulars that I'm going to have to work with. Working around the stump. I don't have a time limit how long it takes to set on this stuff, but I do recommend that, you know, it starts setting up relatively quick in some places depending on the humidity. And you know, if you're in a high humid area like I have, and the town I'm in, we're sort of stuck between two rivers and a rather large creek, so I gotta work with it kind of quick. I'm going to glue Allie the alligator down here in just a minute, as well as the cattails. Even though I glued the moss down, it's still going to want to pop up. This stuff is incredibly sticky and gooey. If any of you ever made homemade candy, rock candy, you know how you pour it out in a pan. It gets, it sets up in a rather gooey, sticky way, and it's like trying to nail down tar. Couldn't find my gloves today, of all the days to do this. But you can get this stuff off your hands real easy with a little bit of rubber cement, with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. You don't have to get too gentle with this when you're trying to fill in the cracks. And there we go on that. Got my level set to where I want it back here for the cattails. One of the things that I want to bring up is that recently there's been a lot of talk about 3D printers and how they used to be so expensive that the average everyday person couldn't really afford them. But now they're becoming to where they are relatively affordable. You know, when it comes to 3D printers, they're kind of a double-edged sword. They're great for some things, and not so great for others. Great for when you want to add a lot of extra details or customize things, but not so great as far as the price goes. If you're living on a shoestring budget, like others are nowadays, you know, being the way they are, you're going to run in with the problems of how much it costs. But you can check on all the groups on on Facebook groups, so on and so forth, and there's always somebody who has a 3D printer, and they'll print up things for you reasonably inexpensive. I had some figures printed up, I think about 2 years ago, that cost me a little over, I think like $25 or $30. It was shipping and handling. Price went up a little bit, but it was well worth it in the end because the figures turned out really, really good. Sometimes you just got to get ornery with it. This is the first layer. I'll go back over with another tube, maybe 2 more from the looks of this, to get it the depth I want it. I gotta love them little dogs. Bark about every tiny thing. Can be a little bit of a pain to work with. As you can tell, it just takes a little bit of patience to work with this. The first layer on this is always a pain in the neck because you're always going to have this, because it's difficult to work with. And if you get a tube like mine that's been sitting for a while and it starts to set up inside of it, it's almost like old rubber glue, it can be a pain in the neck. Alright, rub it down. There you go. Now, take my tweezers and my cattails. I already have the holes marked out. Hold it above the water line and just go kadoink, like that. One of the holes have already been pre-marked, so it settles right down in there like that. The reason for the shaping tools is what you'll see later on, because these are in the shallows. I don't have to worry about them being too perfect, because I can always come back over and redo them a little bit better next time. Put a little bit more if I need to. Settle that down. Not have to be perfectly straight up. There's the cattails, all in there real nice and neat. Take the tool, go back and sort of even that out right there. Here. Now I've determined where that's going to be. This is where Allie's going to be for good. Up the tail over just a little bit. Set it in like it's going to go up the bank just slightly. Nice press. And start working around the alligator, which is going to be the longest and hardest part of it, because as I put the other layer on, I'm going to have to build around the gator and then level it out to where I want it, and then add all the way around. Add my color as I want. This stuff takes takes to acrylic paint really, really good. Albeit it can be a little bit difficult to work with, as you've seen here. And there we go. Take it and rub it in. Work it underneath the gator. Now I'll keep working this underneath the alligator, around the tail, until I get just the way I want it. Especially on top of the feet, give that nice glossy look. And there you have it. Got that over there so you can get a better look. See? The gator stays put. You know, hold on the side there. Well, that gives you a better idea of how well it looks. But there you have it. That's the first layer of the water effect. I have to let this dry for like 48 hours. And then I can come back over and put the other layer on here. But between the two layers, I will go and add a little bit of water detail as far as the color I want. It's like swampy color. I will use a sort of a swampy green color to it. Just a really light touch. And if need be, I can come back over and add a little bit more depth to the cattails. And have a lot of fun in the process. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. And I hope you're having a good summer and staying cool. And remember, if you're not getting messy while you're doing it, you're just not having as much fun as you should. Until next time, take care.